Okay, we're live. Welcome everybody. This is the virtual Beit Midrash, and we have Rabbi Super from Australia. You can see this is a global event. The Torah is all over the universe, and we even have people who are coming to us upside down. Did you know you can make yourself upside down with the Zoom? So, oh, now I can hear now I can hear myself talking on the other one. Hang on, I got to turn that off. Hang on a second. There we go. All right. So Rabbi Super, welcome. And you're going to give us a fabulous share here. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself so everybody can get to know you?
Yes, my name is Pinny Super, or Super for all of you. I grew up, I'm 30 years old. I am married to my wife. She's from Brazil. And we have a 5-year-old daughter, Leah Ainhara. And together with my wife, we started, so when we got married, we lived for like almost a year in New York. And then for the birth of our daughter, we went to Brazil, to Sao Paulo. Wonderful Jewish community over there. And we spent a year and a few months there. And right after that, we decided to move to Australia, and we opened what is called Chabad Young Professionals. So most people are familiar with the Chabad programs on university campuses. In American colleges, Chabad on campus. So we, today, in the past couple decades, there's been a gap of people staying single and not starting families right after university the way it used to be 30, 40 years ago. So, people are still living at home or living by themselves and looking for something. They haven't yet settled down and started a family where they join a community. So there's this gap in Jewish life has opened. So we decided to come to Melbourne and open up a program for the local non-observant young professionals after university, basically until they start a family and join a community, hopefully. So we have shiurim every week, we have social events, we have parties, we have Friday night dinners, we have events for the holidays, we set people up with each other, and all other kind of good things to try service that age group, as well as bring them closer to Yiddishkeit and to the Torah and mitzvahs.
Wow, that's fabulous. We need people like you out there. Bring them home. It's time to get first you got to get them, give them a map, which direction to go, right? It's a little bit lost out there, right? They're about who they are. And then you can give them a map back home. So Kol hakavod, we really admire your work, and we thank you for doing your work. And now feel free to go ahead and teach us.
Yes, welcome, boys and girls. This is usually my mantra when I start my classes or anything when I have anything to say. Say welcome, boys and girls, and then we say welcome, girls and boys, and welcome to all those that are watching us here now, and those who may hopefully watch the recap. So we're living in an interesting time, of course. You go on your Facebook feed or your Instagram or your Fox News, not the CNN or MSNBC, BSC. So you go anywhere, and it's just corona. The whole world is shut down. The whole society has broken down as we know it, right? We're all like, this is normal to be sitting in a bedroom on a computer screen and studying Torah. No, this is not normal. It's supposed to be sitting down with it at a table, around the table, with some sfarim, or listening around the table to someone give a shir. But this is kind of madness. But listen, we have to deal with the circumstances that we're living in. I just a couple of things before I start. Number one, this whole term social distancing, we've got to cut it out. No more social distancing, because it's not social distancing. It's what it is just physical distancing, right? And on the contrary, this is a time, because of the physical distancing guidelines and rules that we have to be very, very careful about. But because of that, it's harder for us to be social and to connect with other people, because we're at home, we're stuck at home. So this is a time not for social distancing. This is a time for social intimacy, for us to connect and be more social while following the physical distancing rules. And I think this is very, very key to us obviously making the most of this time that we're in, and getting through it with our mind still intact, so that we don't have to go to corona therapy pop-ups after this is all done. Clinics, going to be corona clinics all popping up everywhere. So if we take care of our minds during this time, we shall be okay. But that only comes through connecting and not letting ourselves fall into this isolation or social isolation. So at the same time, we're living in this corona, and straight up, it looks like a terrible thing, and it is a terrible thing. But the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidic thought, taught that everything a person sees or hears or experiences, in that experience is something that he can learn to improve himself and to improve his service of Hashem. So there's two things going on. We have to learn something to improve ourselves as humans, as good people, and to improve ourselves in our service of Hashem. So I've been focusing on that for the past couple of days, and I give every night at 8:30, so now it's 9. I just came off the Facebook Live. Before I came on here, we give a 15-minute Facebook Live, a little 15 minutes of meaning to everyone on Facebook, all the local young professionals. So I've collected over the past 4 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, tonight, this week, I've collected 4 ideas that are centered around Corona, or the experience that we're experiencing at this time, that we can learn a lesson from, either to better ourselves or to improve our service of Hashem, or both. So I'll start with Sunday, then I'll go to Monday or Tuesday. And
so before you
guys,
Rav Super, before you go on, can you give where people could see that if they'd like to go to it?
Yeah, just friend me on Facebook, Pinny Super. Just the way, Pinny, last name Super. Or that's the easiest way.
There you go. We had actually last night Sherry, and you might want to share this. I can give you the link. She spoke about her time in Bidud, in quarantine, and what that experience and and the meaning that she got out of that. So I'd be happy to share that with you. You can share that with your community as well. Sherry had some beautiful points. It was geared for women, but it's still for everybody.
That's natural. That's okay. So on Sunday, I was just thinking about a couple ideas. So I decided I want to share those ideas. So this was, Australia was just it was just starting to hit us on Sunday. Now we're already deep into the thick of it, and we're almost shut down. But it was just getting into the thick of it. So a couple of things that came to my mind is, and there's 6 points here from Sunday's reflections. Number 1, we're all super connected. As humans, we're all interconnected. What happens to us here, and what happens to someone in Uganda, and what happens to someone in China, everything is connected. And we see this, that the world is connected, the people, humanity is all connected. Number 1, we're all connected because Hashem created us all, right? But we can see this in the world today, that we're all so connected because one guy in China decides to go to a wet market and he contracted a virus, one person, and the entire world is now on shutdown because we're all connected. Number 1. Number 2, if a virus, a small little teeny negative molecule that some little Chinese man caught in a wet market can affect the entire world to such a degree and shut down societies and markets and economies and the entire world like we could have never imagined. How much more so a kind deed, something kind that we can do for another person, or one mitzvah that we can do in our own lives to do something positive, to grow, or just to smile at someone on the street. You never know the impact of that kind gesture or that little mitzvah that you'll do. And it says that meruba midateva mimida peronius. It says there's a rule in Torah that that good is always stronger than bad. So if this virus, which is bad, which is negative, can have such a huge impact from one little virus, one Chinese man getting a virus, how much more so a positive act can cause a ripple effect of positivity and also change the world for positive. So can't underestimate literally small acts. Number 3 is that we are very, very fragile. It says, we say in the davening, it says, right? It says, don't ever trust in man because man cannot provide salvation. Salvation comes from Hashem. Brachas come from Hashem. Blessings come from Hashem. But we're living in a world today where we think that the world and the governments and everyone else, we've created this powerful, strong societies, invincible societies. And we don't need Hashem. Hashem, we keep him up in the sky. We've built these beautiful, huge societies. Comes one little Chinaman who ate a bat to teach us that you're all societies and all these things that you think you humans built up out of by yourselves. It's great, but it can all crumble in one day. And the only real thing that we can rely on, a person can rely on, is not on these systems of society, but only on Hashem. Number 4 is isolation. We can all see today how difficult it can be to be alone, to be isolated, to not be able to leave the house, or told that it's better not to leave the house and to follow those guidelines. For many of us, it's the first time we even hear of this term, social isolation, right? And that's a good thing that we've never heard of it. But for some, and we must keep this in mind, some people's entire lives exist inside the experience of social isolation. Now we can actually relate to that and better understand them, and we must be mindful and try from now on to at least learn something from this experience, is that it's very difficult. And imagine your whole life was lived in this social isolation, and this is the real reality for some people's life. And we must try our best and put in an extra effort into making them feel included, and especially socially included within our circles. Number 5 is, I think now during this time, actually this is going to be the last one, the next one I'm going to skip. 5 is we now have a new understanding, a new appreciation for the value of social connection. Because we can now see, for us to now connect and be social, it takes more effort than it did a month ago. We can now see that without connection, real connection, we could feel alone, afraid, and even sad. What connection does, connecting with other people intimately, closely, connection gives us the chance to feel that we are not alone. And it gives us this circle of support, especially at these times. So especially in these times, we must put in an extra effort in our own lives to connect with others and to also give connection to others. So to give and take, and we only gain from that whole back and forth. Because without that connection in our lives, and it takes more effort now, without that, we can naturally end up feeling very alone, afraid, and sad, and many other unnecessary and unwanted feelings. Now, on to Mondays. On to Mondays, we're going the whole week. We're doing like the days of creation. On to Monday. It's very interesting. We're having this isolation. So when you say the word isolation on Monday, I was thinking, is isolation loneliness, or is isolation solitude? So as an introduction, if you look on Rabbi Google or Wikipedia, if you look the difference between loneliness and isolation, the gist of it is that loneliness is negative and isolation is and solitude is positive. But the source of loneliness, how do you experience loneliness, is through isolation, and how do you experience solitude is also through isolation. Now, we've been given this time of isolation. We either use it for a gift and grow from it, grow with it, and learn from it, or we just let it be and fall away into it and gain nothing from it. We don't like to talk negative, but we can either be lonely in our isolation, or we can learn the art of solitude. And this practice of solitude is a practice that is important and healthy, very healthy for life and living life at all times. But especially now, I think perhaps we're given this gift of being forced to train ourselves into healthy solitude. Now, I was looking around and I found this really, really nice couple of paragraphs explaining the difference. And at the end, after we read this, I have some tips that I compiled about how to make sure, how to help ourselves practice solitude during this time of isolation instead of loneliness. So it reads like this. Loneliness is a negative state marked by a sense of isolation. One feels that something is missing, right? They're lonely. It is possible to be with people. You don't even have to be in total isolation. It's even possible to be with people and still feel lonely. This perhaps is the most bitter form of loneliness, when you're with people and you still feel lonely. However, solitude is the state of being alone without being lonely. It is a positive and constructive state of engagement with one's self. Again, it's a positive and constructive state of engagement with oneself. Solitude is desirable. A state of being alone, and this is the key. Solitude is desirable, a state of being alone where you provide yourself with wonderful and sufficient company. Solitude is a time that can be used for reflection, inner searching, or growth, or enjoyment of some kind. Deep reading requires solitude. So does experiencing the beauty of nature. Thinking and creativity usually do too. Solitude suggests peacefulness stemming from a state of inner richness. It is a means of enjoying the quiet and whatever it brings that is satisfying and from which we draw sustenance. It is something we cultivate, though. Solitude is refreshing, an opportunity to renew ourselves. In other words, it replenishes us. Loneliness is a harsh punishment, a deficiency state, a state of discontent marked by a sense of estrangement, an awareness of excess loneliness. Solitude is something you choose. Loneliness is imposed on you by others and you're not doing anything about it. We all need periods of solitude. Although temperamentally, we probably differ in the amount of solitude we need. At the end of the day, some solitude is essential. It gives us time to explore and know ourselves. It is the necessary counterpoint to intimacy. In other words, to really be intimate with someone else, you have to really be intimate with yourself first. What allows us to have a self worthy of sharing. So solitude is kind of the practice of being alone in a state of self-worthiness and being content, but even more than content, enjoying one's own company. Solitude gives us a chance to regain perspective. It renews us for the challenge of life. It allows us to get back into the position of driving our own lives rather than having them run by schedules and demands from without. Solitude restores body and mind. Loneliness, however, depletes them. I think that's a great reading. I don't know, when I read that, I was like, wow, this is just amazing. So, a couple tips on how to practice your solitude and make sure you don't fall into loneliness during this time of isolation. Number one is think small. Looking too far. When's this going to end? How long is Corona going to go for? What's going to be with this? What's going to be with that? It's very daunting. So think small. Celebrate small, minor achievements. Going for a walk on your own, celebrate that. Talking to someone on the phone, celebrate that. Being able to, experiencing this blessing of a share over the internet, celebrate that. Rather than fixating on what you've yet to achieve. Ask questions. Number two, ask questions. Don't let your thoughts go unchecked. It's very easy to let a negative emotion dictate your mood or a negative thought. Question what's caused you to feel the way you do and consider whether it's justified. Check on yourself. Check, how am I feeling? What's going on in my mood? Clean house. Clean house. Practice mental hygiene. Take a few minutes every morning for a bit of psychological homework. Are there worries or doubts that are lurking on your mind? Deal with them or let them go. The practice is clean up house, mental hygiene. Deal with them before you get on with your day. I also added to this, I forgot to write it down, but also, you're at home all day and you want to have a positive experience at home or in your room. So put an extra effort into cleaning up your space a little bit every day, and that'll also affect your mood. And lastly, but most importantly, accept it. Remember, if we're going to be in a state of just like, I can't take this anymore, I can't take this anymore, you drag yourself down. It's only hurting yourself. Remember that loneliness isn't a failing, and especially this state of isolation, we've done nothing to that has caused it. We are, and it's not a failing to feel down, or to have a hard time accepting it, or to be happy about it. This isolation. We are social creatures. We're hardwired to be with others, and it's natural to feel unhappy when that's jeopardized. Don't feel ashamed to admit it and accept it. So that was Monday. Now, Tuesday was a very contentious one. I don't know about all of your views on this, but I will share my ones, which I assume they're in line with yours. Okay, now, if you've been online these days, especially on Facebook, also on YouTube, There's all these different kinds of rabbis who, whenever anything happens in the world, they like to prophesize. Oh, this means that this is going to happen, and this has happened because of this. And during such a catastrophe of this time, the most common one is, you guessed it right, this is part of Mashiach coming. This is part of the prophecies of right before Mashiach comes. There's going to be devastation and the breakdown of societies. And this is part of the arrival of Mashiach, and Mashiach, once it's over, Mashiach is going to come. So many people have asked me, and obviously this is a time where people are very vulnerable to these ideas because it's a very scary time, and any hope people naturally like to hold on to. You can't blame them. It's a hard time. And especially it's a Jewish hope that Mashiach is going to come, and he should come right now. It's a Jewish thing that we daven for every day, 3 times a day, that he should come, and it's one of the 13 principles of faith, that he's real and that he will come, and we daven that he will come every single day, and we hope that he does come every single day. But the question is this Corona part of Mashiach coming? So yeah, so I just laid down my thoughts, and I, based on another friend of mine's rant about this, I wrote down some thoughts on this. So I don't like this idea, as you can tell. Number one, because false hopes are truly destructive. You can't propagate this idea that this is part of Mashiach coming and Mashiach is about to come. First of all, no one knows. So it's a nice hope, and it's okay to hope that he's going to come. But to lay this into to cling onto it as if like it's overdone, it's destructive, because if, God forbid, Mashiach doesn't come, then what? I believed in some false things that some rabbi told me. That's destructive for your feelings. I mean, you can get really upset if the whole time during Corona you were, hoping and you're staying positive. Mashiach's going to come. This is just the last step, and it's just part of the prophecy, and it's all good, and Mashiach's going to come. And then if, God forbid, he doesn't come, it could be not a fun experience. That's number one. Number two is trying to make sense, in my opinion, in my limited understanding, trying to make sense. In my mind, trying to make sense means you're making light of, and I'll explain why. Trying to make sense out of this and saying, oh yeah, it's terrible what's going on. There's people dying, there's people getting sick, there's people losing everything that they have, this market's crashing. And I know a lot of those people, it's disaster out there. Saying that this is part of Mashiach coming. This is just the last prophecy, the last, this is the last thing that we're going to experience, and this is part of Mashiach coming. That's really mean to say to someone who's sick, or to someone who knows whose close one died, or trying to make sense out of these things in our understanding. And it may be true. I'm not saying it's not true. Hopefully Mashiach will come. But to try to make sense of all this, I think, makes light and is cruel to everyone who is affected by Corona. On the other hand, saying that, we are commanded to believe in the coming of Mashiach, and we're commanded, like the Rambam says, that Mashiach is a person, will be a person. It's not just an idea, a concept, but Mashiach will be a person, and this person will be the king during the times of Mashiach and the third Beit HaMikdash. Number two, we are commanded to pray and hope every single day that he comes. Daven 3 times a day, even more during benching as well. However many times you decide to eat a sandwich or whatever it is, many times a day, the daven, the Mashiach shall come speedily, straight away, today. Number 3, we're also commanded to believe every single day that he can come. We're not commanded to believe every day that he will come today, because then tomorrow comes and your belief yesterday was bogus. You are commanded to believe that he can come any day, and we pray and hope that he will come today. That's the idea. Now, practically, what does that mean? We should hope and pray that he come anytime and today. We must believe he can and he must come today. As the Rabbi, our Rabbi, very often demanded that Mashiach needs to come now. Whenever there'll be something, a tragedy, the Rabbi will always respond, Mashiach needs to come now. Enough of this golos, enough of this suffering. Mashiach needs to come. Hashem, please bring Mashiach now. Bring us to a time where there will be no more suffering, where there'll be a perfect world, where just knowledge of Hashem will be just the only thing that we know of and experience. However, with this belief of Mashiach and hope for Mashiach and davening for Mashiach, praying for Mashiach, we must still continue to plan for regular life without Mashiach. And something interesting, the Rabbi often mentioned that by creating good plans for the future, for time without Mashiach, by planning for regular life without Mashiach, especially by planning to do good things in this regular life, this itself, that you plan to do good things and mitzvahs in regular life without Mashiach, this itself brings Mashiach closer. Some people can say, oh, how can I plan for next year? Mashiach's going to be here. No, you plan for regular life. That itself brings Mashiach closer. May it be speedily in our days. Let us all say, Amen. Now, we're on to day 4. How are we all tracking, or am I going too fast?
No, it's all good. It's all good. Very interesting. Thank you.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you. Okay. Now, today, I was a bit busy, and no, don't worry, that didn't stop me from preparing for the 15 minutes of meaning that I give every night. But I started thinking, Pesach's coming in 2 weeks, almost Rosh Chodesh. At least here in Australia, you guys have some time. Yeah, we're a day ahead. It's almost Rosh Chodesh. Tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. So I was thinking Pesach is coming. We know nothing is by coincidence. The fact that Corona has come during this time, we know that 30 Yom Lifnei HaChag, you have 30 days before the Chag, you already have to start talking about the mitzvahs of the Chag and the ideas of the Chag and preparing for the Chag. So we're now in a time where we have to start learning and getting ready for Pesach, for the mitzvahs, but also spiritually, we have to also start getting ready for the spiritual lessons of Pesach and then for the spiritual transformation that we can take from Pesach. So it can't be coincidence, nothing's by accident. It's Hashgacha Pratit, it's Hashem, organizing it somehow. I don't think anyone understands why or how, but it is what it is. That this Corona comes during this time, and it looks like, but unless Mashiach comes, we're going to be going into Pesach with the whole world and Corona, going along for the ride. So what can we learn? I asked myself, what can we learn? What lessons can we learn from Corona that we can connect to the lessons of Pesach? In other words, there are spiritual lessons and meaning in the mitzvahs and the holiday of Pesach. How can we connect to those ideas through our experience today with Corona? So I came up with two ideas that I would love to share with you all. Number one is, it's taught in Hasidic teachings that the whole exodus of Egypt, the whole Yetziat Mitzrayim, what do we have to do on Pesach? We have to remember the leaving of Egypt, the Yetziat Mitzrayim. We have to remember the exile in Egypt, and then we have to remember the leaving Egypt at the Seder. That's what Pesach's all about: commemorating and reliving the experience of Yetziat Mitzrayim. Now, it's explained in Hasidic teachings that if you look in the word Mitzrayim, you have the word Mitzar and Metzarim in the word Mitzrayim. Mitzar is a limitation, a narrow space, and Metzarim is limitations. So what is Yetziat Mitzrayim? What's the spiritual leaving of Egypt? That is to gain energy and inspiration during Pesach to help us live life and perform mitzvahs, but in general, all of our life, beyond our limitations. What are our limitations? Our limitations are our comfort zones that we live in, that we're stuck in. We're all stuck in a little Mitzrayim. We're all stuck in a little limitation that really prevents us from growing and doing so much more than we really can. So many times it's our comfort zones that we're afraid of going beyond, and many times it's habits or circumstances, some that have been put onto us, not by choice, and some of them that we have become accustomed to, different habits that we've become accustomed to that don't let us, that hold us back from really achieving our true potential and of life and our true purpose. Now, if you look, so that's the idea of Yetziat Mitzrayim. That's the spiritual Hasidic idea of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And if you look at this Corona, one of the biggest themes is isolation. Now, if you look a bit deeper into what is going on with this isolation, it's really a breakdown of our comfort zones. Because our comfort zones and habits, we've become accustomed to a certain comfort zone and a lifestyle of waking up in the morning, of having breakfast, of then leaving the house, going to work, having brunch with friends, then going for dinner, then going to shul for Shabbat, and then going out on Sunday on a trip, and going for drinks with friends, or all of the regular life that we have become accustomed to, which we find comfort in, has all broken down. And now we're left with staying at home, in and out, day in, day out. That is outside our comfort zone. And we're all trying to learn how to adapt to living and making the most of this experience, which is beyond our comfort zone, beyond our limitations, beyond, we're kind of being pushed or given this secret gift of a space, like this, it's like a training time. We're like kind of forced to learn how to adapt and how to live and make the most of living, of this experience outside of our comfort zone. because our regular comfort zones very often restrict our growth. There's people that are discovering hobbies that they never knew they had. There's people that are connecting to friends they would have never connected with. People are doing amazing things, getting out of their comfort zone because of this breakdown of the comfort zone. So I think this is a good preparation for this idea of Yetziat Mitzrayim, of leaving our comfort zones and living beyond our limitations that we can draw energy from during the upcoming holiday of Pesach. So that was one idea. The other idea is the Hasidic idea between the difference of matzah and chametz. I assume most of you know the difference, but just to repeat it, is that chametz, bread, has been given time to rise, to self-inflate itself much larger than it really is. Because if you go down to him and you squash it, it becomes a lot smaller. He has self-inflated himself, bigger than he really is. He's full of ego, and this is a piece of bread. A matzah, on the other hand, hasn't been given even one moment to rise, or for any ego to get in. It's from when they hit the water with the flour, it's only given 80 minutes, because after 80 minutes it starts to rise. So if it's less than 80 minutes, there's no time for it to rise. No time for ego to get it, for any ego, or gava, as we call it. But gava there could be positive gava. So we're talking about ego, which is negative. So the lesson of Pesach, the spiritual lesson of matzah, is that this is a time to reflect on and meditate on living with more humbleness, living more authentically, to being humble, experiencing being humble, to train ourselves to being humble, as opposed to living with ego and self-inflated view of ourselves projected onto others. Now, with this life, with Corona, I was thinking about it, and it just came at me. I just took some notes, so I'll go around on that. Often, our ego can express itself, often our ego does express itself in competitive spaces, right? Sometimes, the spaces with other people. It's usually where our ego can self-inflate and project itself. Our overinflated view of ourselves, then we're inclined to project that onto other people, usually in spaces with other people where there is a chance to get competitive. So, for example, we often like to look better than others, or try to outdress others, or feel good, or I'm dressed better than other people in this room. We like if we're in a room in yeshiva and everyone's learning, sometimes your ego will make as if you are learning with more seriousness, because you're the serious learner, right? You want everyone to see that you're the serious learner. It's an expression of ego. Stop it, learn to project your seriousness upon the other people is ego, and not something positive. Sometimes we like to daven with what looks like more kavanah, right? We like to shake a bit harder than the next person, or close our eyes, shut them a bit more serious than the other person, or daven, be the last one to turn for Oseh Shalom, because we're so serious and we're so fervent in our kavanah, we want everyone to see, right? Our ego, it also comes out in Torah mitzvahs, He's a smart one, the Yetzer Hara. Something funny. There was a guy who came well dressed into a party. Well dressed, he was a wealthy man. He came in, he's with his ego. He came in, he's wealthy, he's well dressed. He came, chashav a guy, big gvir, comes into the party, and randomly, maybe people had a bit too much to drink, but people were making fun of him, this and that. And he turns to one of his friends. He says, "What's wrong? Why are they making fun of me here?" And his friend told him, "If you wouldn't spread yourself out all over the room, no one would be stepping on you. You spread yourself out in the whole room. Obviously, people are going to step on you." But now, during this time of Corona, we've been, gifted in a sense with a space without people. We're at home. We're by ourselves, and we're given this space where we can start to learn and practice living authentically and with humbleness. Now, why do I say the word authentically? What's authenticity? If I'm going to be really authentic and real, then there's nothing to me. I don't gain anything about it from being better than someone else or projecting my feelings about myself onto anyone else. And there's no space, there's no room for inflated views of myself. For being authentic, that's humble. Because authentic living and humble living at its core, being authentic, we realize that we are all the same and equal. We're all children of Hashem. We are all ultimately equal. We may have different talents, but no one is better than anyone if we're going to really be authentic about it and sure about it. And that's humbleness. And now we're stuck in a space of our home, we can start practicing, davening for ourselves, because no one's looking at us, and learning for ourselves because no one's looking at us, and doing everything that we have to do with a real authenticity, and practice that authenticity. So with that, I would like to wish all of you a good end of a week, and have a good Shabbos from Australia. You have a few days till Shabbos, but good Shabbos nonetheless. And I hope you enjoyed this shiur.
Indeed.
Found some meaning. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah, we really, yeah. I'll send you the link because I have the YouTube link. You can use it and put it wherever you want as well. And
Yes, thank you.
And also, if you're ever in B'ezrat Hashem, you'll be in Israel soon.
B'ezrat Hashem will be able to come to Israel soon.
So today, you'll be able to come. You'll come today. Yeah, come today. You'll come today, right? And you'll come to us. You'll come up and you'll visit us, and you'll come have Shabbos with us, and you'll.
I would love to.
Yeah, we have. It's a fantastic. And also too, if you have here, let me just right now stop the recording here. Thank you everybody for watching. And we'll have more for you on the virtual Beit Midrash. All right, here in Keshet Yehuda, or here in the world. Maybe if you're from another planet, you can watch it too. All right.
Maybe they are watching.
They for sure are watching. All right.